Welcome to the Pharma Source podcast. Welcome to the final Women in BioPharma meetup of the year. It's amazing to have so many of you with us and to be joined by this panel today. As we often say, as part of these calls, that while in the pharma industry, gender mix generally starts off fairly even from both male and female. By the time you get to the C-suite, certainly by the time you get to CEO level, it becomes 90% plus male. And so that's why it's so great to have this high-level panel of inspirational women speaking today. We have on the call, Hennie, you're going to have to help me with your surname, please.
Yeah, Zijlstra. Everybody knows me just with Hennie because the rest is impossible. So Hennie.
Okay. Hi, Hennie. Chief Commercial Officer at Adragos, Nikki Whitfield, CEO of Upperton, and also Elizabeth Hickman, who is currently Chief Business Officer at Austin PX, but she is, I think as of today, she's in her first sort of major board meeting as she's being elevated to the CEO role. Elizabeth, because of that clash, she's not actually able to join us now, but luckily I did find some time in her schedule to record a quick interview with her. And she starts off by talking about why there are, in her opinion, why there are so few women who are in the C-suite within pharma.
There's not a lot of us. When I think about why, there's probably the traditional things in the industry as well as just society that have prevented that. But I certainly see that path is changing, and I fully expect that the CD industry will have multiple female CDMOs in the years to come. Just to talk a little bit about my career path, I like the term that not all who wander are lost when it comes to my career path. I studied microbiology in my undergraduate studies, but I realized very quickly during summer internships that working in a lab just wasn't a thing for me. So I started exploring alternative careers in sciences. When you think about the path of Chief Business Officer into the role of the CEO, I definitely think that maybe it's not the traditional, especially for a high technology-based company, but I do think there's multiple paths to the CEO position, and the industry is seeing the benefits of diversity and backgrounds and experience that different roles can bring to the role of CEO. I would say that having a background in sales and marketing has been very beneficial in preparing me for the role of CEO. We're a service-based company, and having a very strong connection to the customer is important for our long-term success. And honestly, I'm lucky to have multiple mentors and supervisors throughout my career that recognize my potential and encouraged and challenged me to stretch myself. But they really saw something in me that maybe in the beginning I didn't see in myself, and challenged me to step up and learn new skills beyond my. But I'd say really the key is sticking yourself out there. So anyone who's listening that is interested in a CEO career for themselves, I'd have to say, just lean in. Just like Sheryl Sandberg said, you have to lean in and put yourself out there and just trust yourself that you can do it and put the work in. There's definitely things that companies can do and things that, as I step into the CEO role and want to develop the future leaders of our company, would like to do. I'd say the first thing that we can do is to offer flexible work arrangements. By offering flexible work options like remote work and flexible hours can really help a woman better manage their work-life balance, especially during the time that they have school-age kids. When I think about my career and the flexibility that I had working from home as a sales and marketing executive, and the support that I had both from my supervisors and the people that I worked with, having that flexibility was really key to allowing me to not only be there for my job, but also my family. Also, leadership development programs. You have to have programs designed to empower people and women to reach their full potential and help them understand what their path could be, whether that's management or scientific. Development programs are key. That's something that we've invested in a lot at Austin Pharmaceuticals to make sure that people have the skill set to grow into leadership positions. And then promoting workplace inclusivity in the culture, I think, is also a key, and making that part of what your culture is and what you do every day, empowering people to contribute their ideas. We talk a lot at Austin Pharmaceuticals about psychological safety and creating a teamwork or a team-based culture where everybody is involved in solving really hard problems. And you have to tap into that across the organization, whether you're male or female.
Fantastic. Alicia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Luke. So first of all, I'd like to welcome Hennie and Nikki and really just ask you both to introduce yourselves, share a little bit about your background, experience and journey to where you are. Hennie, should we start with yourself?
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, thank you for having me. So my name is Hennie Zijlstra. I am 42 years old. I don't know why I start with my age, but I think it's the thing that is something I always want to highlight. I'm a mom of two, an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Adragos. I've been living in Barcelona for almost 13 years. I'm officially from Holland. Officially, I was born in Holland. I just renewed my passport, so I'm very excited for that. What else? I am not a pharmacist. I'm also not a chemist. I studied international business, mastered in marketing. I accidentally entered into the pharma 17 years ago through sales. Then 17 years later, I am Chief Commercial of Adragos, where I'm responsible for sales, marketing, and brand. Nice to meet you.
And like Hennie, I'm very pleased to be here. I'm Nikki Whitfield. I'm CEO of Upperton. I've worked in pharma for 30 years now. I'm not going to reveal my age. I'm not as working from very early stage preclinical right the way through to the launch of new medicines. I'm a chemist by training, but I'm definitely a formulator and manufacturer by heart. And I still love being in the labs now. I've had a variety of different roles in pharma over that 30 years, in R&D, in regulation, helping to support clinical. So the whole breadth of everything that makes the pharma industry so varied and an amazing space to work in. I've been CEO for 3 years. I joined the organisation to bring in private equity into a founder-led business. And we used that private equity to build a new facility and grow the business. So we've tripled in size over the last 2 years. Count myself very fortunate to have been part of such an amazing journey.
Amazing. Thank you both. And the wider biopharma industry is certainly at the top predominantly male focused. What advice would you give to women looking to follow your career paths into leadership? And is it something that you've consciously had to think about in terms of that career navigation, or what strategies did you adopt?
I think for me, 30 years ago, starting in the labs, it was probably an equal split of male and females at the bench. And although most of in fact, probably all of the executive leadership and directors at that time were male, it wasn't something that I was particularly aware of, I don't think. And I think that probably reflects how the world was back then in the 90s. It was just the way things were. I think times are changing. It is slow, but it is definitely changing. And particularly in science, there are so many opportunities now for women in all areas, science, engineering, all of them. And it really comes down to taking those opportunities when they come along. And when I look at my career, I think there were lots of junctions where I may not have taken the step, not because I'm a woman and the opportunity wasn't there for a woman, but because for me personally, that the confidence to do that in what is a male-dominated environment is probably coming from me rather than the external environment. So for anyone wanting to progress a career, I would say you've got to just take those opportunities when they come along and work hard and not let yourself hold yourself back from progressing and taking on more and more responsibility and accountability.
Thank you, Nikki. And Hennie?
Yeah, so I think it's also a little bit what Elizabeth said. So I couldn't agree more, Nikki. So from my side, I'm not a chemist. I'm also not a pharmacist. So I always feel like a little bit of the in Dutch we say the strange duck so it's everybody is in the industry. It can be very uncomfortable because it's normal to start. I did a PhD there, and if you're I think specifically women, we are, and I don't want to say that men are not, but we have more empathy, and we are also easier, maybe we have more anxiety. So when you get an opportunity, like Nikki says, then we are more reluctant to take the challenge because we're more like, the society tells us like, oh, but do you really need that? And from a man, it's more expected. So I would say from my side, I was very lucky. I have a very strong foundation. I always say that. My father has only 2 daughters, so I always think he just didn't care. That's all. But okay, doesn't matter. So I was raised very much. You can do anything as long as you try. So if you don't try, then don't tell yourself that you couldn't do it. And this is the same thing. You get an opportunity, then you have to take it. Because what if you fail? You will never know. If you don't try it, then you also don't know if you can make it. So if you get an opportunity, take the opportunity. That would be my first advice, or similar to what Nikki said. And also, don't stop learning. Always keep on improving. And I think the thing is that if you find the moment in which you can excel, keep on excelling. So that is my other advice. And then my thirdly is like, why are there more men? Yeah, I think it's also related to having kids. The more up you get, the older you get, the more it's the work-life balance starts to be challenging. So from this part, find a strong foundation. Either the flexible working from home is ideal, or have a very strong partner and hopefully family around that can help you balance that. I think in that moment, as long as then we can excel, and then we should be absolutely similar to men.
Both yourself, Hennie, and Elizabeth spoke around the wider working conditions, so to speak. Do you think there's anything organisationally that can be or needs to be, or that you've got experience of being done, that's really helped to elevate the progression of women within the industry?
Yeah, so I think I deliberately went to work for a corporate organization. So when my kids were small, I moved into corporate because there I do feel like they're a little bit ahead of the balancing. So I've had always the opportunity to work from home. I have traveled a lot. So it is also related to not working in a lab. So it's not really a fair comparison, right? It's a little bit like you get the flexibility there. But I think organizations can really help and support there. So if you can give them and not the forcing, be in the office and from the 9 to 6 or these kind of, I find that really for the 80s when there was no internet. So if you can offer that kind of opportunities to your team, you should definitely do it. Obviously, if it's possible in terms of in the job description. But we as well at Adragos, we are the same. It's we have a fully flexible working conditions. If I do like to meet the team, this is something which I still think is nice, but I'm very flexible. I work in the very late nights, unfortunately, but I block my calendar in the mornings, and you can ask my assistant. It says kids, and I'm very strong on that. You cannot touch these hours. I will work later, I will work earlier, but not on these hours. And I had to train the C-level as well when I joined in the beginning, because I'm the first, not the CEO like Nikki, but as a CCO. They were not used to it. So it was also a growth like, Hennie is declining a meeting request. So this is something that you need to also be strong here and say, hey, this is my limit. And I think the one learning is the more up you get in the organization, the more of a luxury you get to also design it. I don't know how Nikki feels about that, because you own the agenda more. I think from my side, I got more flexibility the more up I got in the organization.
Yeah, I think you do get more flexibility. It is harder when you're running labs and manufacturing areas because it's just not possible to work from home. I think where you can be more flexible is if someone wants to watch their child's nativity play or sports day or needs to do the school run in the morning, you can definitely offer that flexibility to the men and women that are in the organisation. I think COVID changed the world that in a lot of ways that we operate now, and we realize that we can work remotely. But yeah, I think it's important for everyone in the organization to have that flexibility and know that it works two ways. And there are times where you do need to work late, but at the same time, you want the company to respect things that are important to you on the home side as well.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And building on a point that you made, Hennie, around the network and having to almost re-educate your CFO ways of working. Through your journey and through your career, how important has that kind of allyship and mentoring or relationship building with those along the way, how important has that been in your progression?
Yeah, I would say crucial. I think it's, and I think I didn't realize in that moment what was really a mentor, if that person was being a mentor or a coach. But now I have a coach. I speak with him every 2 weeks. Really helps me. And to see you strategically and to get his guidance on how to position it. But because for me it's also I want to keep on growing, and so this is one thing. But during my career I've had we could say believers. I call it like that, like people that saw the potential and maybe didn't tell you, but they showed you by supporting you, and that is really crucial. And that has to do by taking the extra step. It has to do by showing results. Things don't come for free. So I think, Nick, you also said hard work does pay off and people see it. So you need to take the extra step. And if you find someone who helps you and who guides you and supports you, then absolutely tag along with them and tell them as well, look, I appreciate that. And also from my position, I try, and maybe I should ask the team if they feel it, because I try to also give that back. Like I always try to guide. There's these things, these tricks, what I use, which helped me a lot. Journaling, for example, is one of the things that I started doing, I think 5-6 years ago, or quick meditation sessions during the day. Like it's just these small little things. If you get that, if you can say that it impacts people's life, I like that. Yeah, I try to give that back. But I did get, I would say, like I said, crucial mentors and good leaders. Yeah. But it was not only my CFO, or also the CEO. So
I think it's really interesting, Hennie, what you've just said there, because I think the people that have had the most influence on my career have probably been bosses that have been really tough on me. It hasn't always been a sit down and a nice, friendly coaching session. It's been, you need to pull your socks up and you need to go out there and be brave and make these decisions and have courage in decisions that you're taking. And at the time, I thought they're so hard and they're so pushing. And yet when I see them now, and I still see them, even though I haven't worked with them for 20 years, they'll always say, I knew you could do it, but you were carrying this self-doubt that you couldn't do it. What you needed was someone to actually say, go ahead and do it. And I can just see a question, how do you find the courage? And when I became CEO of Upperton and I did my opening speech to the team, I can honestly say I was sick before I went and gave that presentation, because I really thought, what if everyone in this room thinks, what is she doing here? Does she actually know how she's going to take this business from this, bring in private equity and build the business? And I was racked with what's going on. And I had an old mentor that said, the only one that really knows that is you. So if you smile, you're great, you sound nervous, you make eye contact right the way through. And your only job today is to make those people feel really confident in what you're doing. What you do behind closed doors and what other advisors or consultants you bring in to help you deliver it is between you and your office. But today, you owe those people confidence and make them believe what you believe. So it is hard and it takes a lot of self-talking. I talk to myself a lot, and especially in the car, I have conversations with myself, and that really helps, because the brain doesn't know the difference if you're saying it or someone else is saying it. So talk to yourself. It really does help.
Thank you. And you spoke there around the day that you became CEO. What other, that was a challenge, but what other kind of challenges or difficult steps have you faced in that journey to that position of CEO?
I think the main challenges have been around building departments that I've never worked in. So I've never worked in a commercial group, Hennie. I've never had the pleasure of working in your area, and we needed to build a commercial group really quickly. And so it was a huge challenge, because how do you interview people when you don't have the background or the expertise to know that you're recruiting and bringing in the right people? And how do you give them confidence to come in and want to work in your team? And it was a huge challenge, and we didn't get it right straight away. And the more things that don't work out, the more that strengthens your belief that actually you don't know how to do this. And this is where you rely on your networks. You go back through your career, and I called up people that I'd worked with that were superb commercial people, and said, I need you to educate me. I need you to help me understand how to build a commercial group. So I think when you've built these networks and peers and people that you've stayed connected with, they're the people that help you with these challenges. I certainly don't believe that I have the answer to everything, but I think I know a lot of people that know a lot of things, and pulling on their expertise to help is absolutely what's got me through the last few years. And likewise, I will go and help people that might need a question on CMC or manufacturing or building new sites. It's all about give and take.
Yeah, I like it, because also then I would definitely speak with you, because I am clueless on that part. So I think from my side, what I can say is that I think a lot is also gut feeling. So one thing comes to your network and trusting people, you feel it. And I think maybe with age, that we start to realize, okay, I have to really trust my gut. And is this my gut, or is this anxiety? Is this my comfort zone? Can I do it? And this is, I think that would be my advice. How do you find courage? Yes, challenge yourself, not overshoot, step by step, and then you can still get closer to feeling comfortable by doing something which is outside of your comfort zone. But yeah, I do agree with you, and I speak a lot to the dogs, so that helps me. They even speak back to me, so I don't know what that. But okay, yeah, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And we've just had a question that's come in. So what current trends do you see shaping the pharmaceutical sector, and how do they impact job opportunities post the lovely time of COVID-19?
I think the trend that probably affects Upperton the most is we work with a lot of small and emerging biotechs and pharma that are run by great entrepreneurs and really creative and innovative people, but they don't have any infrastructure. And so one of the growing trends that we've seen is that those sort of organizations are not looking for a transaction. They're looking for partnerships, and they're looking for partnerships that will take them right the way through to late stage development. And we have to be sure as a CDMO that we've got the infrastructure, the culture, and the working practices that marry up with what these smaller pharma companies are looking for. So for us as a CDMO, it's about building capability, it's about building expertise and experience, and making sure that we work on relationships, and as well as the quality and the scientific delivery, it's about the relationships as well. And I think that has changed post-COVID, because I think there's more investment in research and development and looking at new ways of doing things, and maybe taking a few more chances on investing in new programs, new areas, new disease areas. So we have to respond to that by making sure that we're keeping up with the scientific developments of those sort of organizations, which is great news for the job market. It has been a tough couple of years with investment, but I think that tanker is definitely turning, which is great for new graduates and people working in pharma looking for new challenges.
I do agree for the small biotechs and the growth there, and aligned with that we are, as Adragos, we are also focusing on the closer customer relationship, targeting the customer we really need, and that needs us. So it's really for highlighting our value propositions. So it's difficult for me to generally speak about the job needs. That's not really my expertise, but I can tell you how we have been growing and how steep this has been doing. Of course, we expand our footprint, but if you look in the team, we went from 2 people in commercial to 15 in a year, all in-house. So if you say what kind of opportunities do we see, it's like maybe the private equity-backed pharma CDMO companies, because they do expand. And I'm sure that, Nikki, with tripling size of your company, you must have also increased your FTE base. So that would be maybe my advice. I look for that type of PE-funded CDMOs or biotechs, and then look at it from that.
If you spoke about the depth of relationships and the need for those to, as you say, not to be transactional and to move to be more partnered and long term, how do you think that within your roles, you guys being women, has been a positive, or do you think that's enabled that, I suppose, softer view?
Yeah, from my side, absolutely. I can say that, like you said, there's the percentage of women in my meetings that I attend is like usually 1 out of 50 or maybe 1 out of 10. But it has a different impact. If a woman, as a commercial, for example, negotiates with a customer, it's just different. Men negotiate different with women. I think I won't not say take advantage, but I think it is in my the empathy and that way of relationship, it's different. We are and maybe I'm speaking we as a whole definition of women, but I think we are less bothered by size of a watch and the car that we're driving, and we're more looking at, hey, how is your wife doing, and how are the kids, for example. So I do believe that we bring a different layer, management, negotiation, and that is definitely very different from what I've seen between the men. Without saying, and there's a lot of empathic men as well, but it's not the majority, if I can tell that without, being politically correct.
I think it inevitably it changes the dynamic in a meeting. Typically, there would definitely be 1 or 2 women in the room when you're meeting with customers, and particularly when you're on the contract negotiation side, it gets even smaller. So I agree with Hennie there. I think if you've got confident, experienced women in a room negotiating, I think it's really powerful. I think it takes time to build respect and build those relationships, but I think women generally, it's how we live most of our lives. Is we spend our lives building a lot of relationships with a lot of different people from different backgrounds outside of the workplace, and I think certainly those skills certainly come into play when you're in a boardroom as well.
Thank you. And a question that's just come in, which I think we've covered. What do you think are the strong sides of negotiating women, and how do they differ to men?
Yeah, I get it. I can answer it, but my CEO told me, yes, but you negotiate like a man. So I don't know what that.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
From my side, it's a little bit like I have to think a little bit of my daughter, because she's 8 and I negotiate with her the whole day. So I don't know. I think it's just, why is it different? Yes, I think we are more, like I said, we're more empathic and we're more relationship builder, and maybe we are, but it's also training. It's training yourself and getting used to. Maybe, but I think in general, as a person, I like to have a fair agreement. And I think that is in general, I really truly believe that is the way that you can do more business. And maybe that is the female angle there, where we can say, okay, it's more trust, it's more relationship, it's less transactional, it's more future focused. But don't know if that has to do with me being, that it's a bit, I don't know if it's gender based, more personality maybe.
Yeah. I agree with Hennie. I'm not sure I negotiate any different to any of the men in the organisation. I think it is down to your personality and training and expertise.
And age as well, I think for me it's different. If I look back how in the beginning, in the mid-20s versus now, that is different. That I was even more bold.
I think that's a really good point, that it's almost, how much of it do you relate to us being women versus men? Or is it just a case of it's progression? Business relationships are moving away from those tactical one wins, one loses, and moving more into that long-term partnership. And you mentioned it earlier, Hennie, around inclusion and really making sure that everybody is part of that as well. Yeah, I probably agree with you, Nikki, that I think it's just down to a style as opposed to maybe gender, and also the progression conversation, I think.
Yeah. I think certainly when I was younger, one of the harder things I learned to do was to actually speak up in a meeting, particularly when it was, looking back, I'm not sure whether or not it's because it was male dominated or because it was more, I felt everybody had more experience or maybe didn't place as much value on what I had to say. I think learning to speak up and express an opinion and make sure that opinion is heard is a key part in negotiation. And certainly the more experience you get and the more comfortable you become in your experience and expertise does make you a stronger negotiator, because you learn to not show immediate emotion and to not take it personally and try and find the best resolution in the room, rather than if it's not my opinion that's taken, then that proves that I'm not as experienced as the other people in the room. So I think learning to speak up and speak assertively without seen as emotional is probably one of the best training exercises I've had.
Yeah, I get it a lot. I am very emotional, I think. Then I also embrace it because it's more or less, I don't think you should change as who you are. I think it's good to be a nicely, how do you say that? Polished version of yourself. But I think emotions are good. I think, of course, you don't, anger management is one thing, but I like that. I like sharing and having a good conversation with someone and having the fair. I think one of the things, especially, and I am truly interested in building a relationship with people. Maybe that sounds, how do you say? Maybe it sounds a bit too much, but I really would like to do an agreement and then have a nice drink or a dinner with that person and have a nice dinner and connect personally with that person. This is the way I like. I don't know how Nikki's life is, but it's not that we have 20 hours a week left to hang with our friends and to go and for dinner. It's a lot of times you mix your business relationship and they become friendships or French. You know what I mean? And I think that is, we women are good at that. I think we are stronger at that. We know how to build this kind of have the chit chat. I think if we start a board meeting, I'm always the one who starts saying, hello, how was everybody's weekend? And how is it going? I think this is more for our, I guess that is what I would say. Go more for the personal, and authenticity as well. I truly believe in authenticity. Don't be the version and pretend to be something. No, you know who you are. And maybe you're still discovering who you are, but then you grow into your version. And the more comfortable you are, the more comfortable you can negotiate, the more comfortable you can lead. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I agree, but I think it depends on having an awareness of how other people in the room are reacting as well. You have to have different styles for different scenarios, and people react to different. So I think it's not changing yourself, but it is about managing how you're interacting with everyone in the room and making sure that everyone feels comfortable with the style that you're adopting. I'd hate someone with the best idea in the room not want to voice it because I'm obviously hyper excited and want to do it my way. I think it's just about being more in tune with people around the room and how they're comfortable in expressing themselves as well. And I think that's probably been some of the self-awareness bits that I've probably learned over the last 10 years it's not the Nikki Whitfield show. It needs everybody around this table to have an opportunity and feel comfortable in expressing opinions and different ideas. But I think women in general are very good at that. They're very tuned into other people's emotions, probably because of their role in either their immediate family or wider families, very sensitive to understanding how people feel and making sure that the quietest person in the room does get a chance to speak.
Thank you. And one of the questions that's come on come through around the relationship building is, how do you lead your teams to build a trusting partnership quickly? So Nikki, as you were exploding your organization in size, was that something that you were consciously aware of?
Oh, absolutely. And all of our recruitment, obviously we need people that are talented and really excited about the organization, but the cultural fit is hugely important. And it's a big part of our recruitment process as well, because we need people that can engage with not only their peers and the teams that they're leading, but also customers. And you get people's trust quickly by being authentic and genuine, and people believing that you say what you say and that you want the overall goal to be the best for the organization and the teams, not for you personally. So that's something that we try and recruit in, but also work really hard to retain once we've got that in the organization, because I think that shows the strength of an organization when people want to stay and develop within that group. They may move departments, they may move areas, but they want to stay in that hub of your organization, and that in itself builds stronger relationships.
Perfect. And one final question that's come in, again, with regards to that company culture piece, so you segued very nicely into that, Nikki, is if somebody is interviewing to join an organization, what's your advice around the questions that they should ask to understand that company culture?
I think it's always good to ask how the position became available. Is it part of the organization's growth, or is it a position that someone has left? Have they been promoted within the organization? All of these things are positive things. But I think you can get a good feel, even if you're just going from interview, from walking around, seeing people interact around you. When you're on the tours, seeing how people are behaving in the different areas. I think you can sense when you've walked into a space where, the culture feels good and there's a good atmosphere. Certainly on things like platforms like LinkedIn, you can see when people are promoting positive aspects of the employment there. Yeah, we get asked some good questions, and they tend to be more, the ones I like are the ones that say, where do you see the organization going, and how do you make sure that you're taking the organization with you when you're growing so quickly and bringing so many new people on? And I like those sort of questions.
Thank you.
I think that's pretty much all we've got time for. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alicia, for hosting, as ever, as you have all of our sessions this year. Been really fascinating. And thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Hennie. And of course, to Elizabeth as well. So our next session like this, absolutely, please do come along, is really exciting for us. We've got Valentina Milanova, who is a fascinating person. If you're not aware of her, do look her up. She's the founder and CEO of women's health products in the gynecological market. Absolutely fascinating story that she has. She's been building this company, this new and disruptive brand, really hands-on, to the point where during COVID she was the only person working in the facility because her team were on death's door early on in COVID, and so she was actually running the manufacturing as well as getting headlines in the Financial Times and all of the world's media around this new product that she's building. In developing this product, she's come head on with some really ingrained structural problems around gender bias in our industry. And it starts from lab testing, when at that very early discovery stage, the mice that are used, the rabbits that are used, are all male, apparently. Something which I didn't realize, because the menstrual cycle of mice means that apparently they're not thought of to be reliable. So right from a very earliest stage in our industry, everything is done as male lab testing. And then she also has similar conversations about manufacturing, how women's products are not manufactured to the same, even to GMP standards that you'd expect for other types of pharmaceuticals, in terms of regulatory and in terms of marketing. So the whole end-to-end process, the systemic issues which are there within pharma. she's going to be talking to us about that. And it's going to be a really interesting conversation. So please do join us for that. And then the other thing that's mentioning what we're very focused on here at PharmaSource is we've got our in-person event, which we're running next year and really excited about it. Valentina is going to be one of the people speaking at the event. Nikki is going to be at the event as well, I'm pleased to say. And we're going to be doing a Women in Pharma in-person, face-to-face meetup as part of this. And we're really excited about this event. It's all about the future of contract manufacturing. We've been developing a totally unique style of event. And in terms of industry support, there's going to be around 50 CDMOs who are going to be at the event. And we're powering all of this with our partner match system to connect you with exactly the right companies who can take your products to the next stage of development. And we're very confident that this is going to become Europe's #1 platform for outsourcing. So if you're in the development and manufacturing space, please do take this as an open invitation. Please do come along, get involved, join the Women in Pharma meetup we'll be doing there. We've got early bird tickets available now. So just head over to cdmolive.com for all of that. That's it for now. Please do have a wonderful Christmas, and I look forward to seeing you again in the new year. Thank you everyone for joining today.
Thank you, Luke.
Experience the future of contract manufacturing at CDMO Live 2025. Join us at the World Trade Centre Rotterdam on May the 7th and 8th, 2025 for an exclusive event that brings together the sharpest minds in biopharma outsourcing. For 2 days filled with market insights, best practices and partnering. Early bird tickets are now available, so head to cdmolive.com to download the agenda and to book your ticket.